I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and this is another episode of Ask the Lawyers. A fiery multi-vehicle crash happened Thursday outside of Denver, Colorado, and is so far being blamed for multiple deaths and quite a few injuries. Police in Lakewood, Colorado say they have arrested the driver of a flatbed semi-truck that was loaded with lumber and crashed into stop traffic on I-70, causing an explosion and a large fire. Lakewood police are still investigating the accident. They say at last count it involved 28 vehicles, 4 of them semi-trucks, 24 cars. And here to answer some of our questions today about this is Colorado attorney Tom Metier of the Metier Law Firm, who is also president-elect of the Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys. Thank you for your time today, Tom. I appreciate it.
Rob, thank you for contacting me. This is a terrible tragedy. It's been updated now with at least 4 deaths.
And so you've lived in Colorado for a long time. You've had a lot of experience with trucking accidents. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, unfortunately, I have. But this tragedy is just unexcusable. There are so many things that should have happened differently. The investigation at this time is not complete. But as you know, there's a lot of work to be done here.
Let's talk based on the fact that you are from that area. Have you been on this stretch of road? Are you familiar with this stretch of highway?
I'm very familiar with it, yes.
What can you tell us about it? What sort of terrain are we talking about?
Well, this is an urban area in Lakewood on I-70. It's a high traffic area. There are shopping centers on either side of the road, hotels. It's an area that drivers should be very cautious, and there's a lot of traffic. If you've seen the videos of the crash and the aftermath, you realize that this occurred at an underpass area. It's just a situation where the driver should have been aware that there was slowing traffic ahead of him, and he should have been flowing with traffic and providing extra distance so that he could get stopped in a timely fashion.
Is this coming down? Is there a grade here? Is it coming down out of a steeper grade?
Yes, it is coming down a grade. As you've seen, the press reports talking about the fact that it was on a downhill grade, although not what you'd call mountainous terrain. It was not from Colorado.
So one of the things that I found interesting is the police are saying they've arrested the driver, and they say even if they find that there's some mechanical failure responsible for the crash, there could still be vehicular manslaughter charges pressed. Why would those still apply? Well,
because the driver and the company that owns the truck, and I don't know who that is as we're speaking, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act provides very specifically that a vehicle should be inspected, including the brakes in particular, but its drive system, its communication system, its brake system, all should be inspected on a continuous basis. That is, before the driver gets in the vehicle that morning or at the beginning of a shift, it needs to be inspected. Every time he pulls over and makes a stop, it should be inspected again before he continues on. The rules and regulations here are very specific. It's my understanding that he has a commercial driver's license and therefore was licensed to drive the vehicle. And that tells us he had specific training that should have prevented this from occurring. Even if the company was not maintaining the truck, the driver had a duty and would know how to check to make sure those brakes were in working order.
I also understand that there are, in that section of I-70, there are warning signs about the grade aimed at the truckers. Does that relieve them of any responsibility or make them even more responsible that the driver should have been more aware of the situation?
It makes them even more aware of the situation. To the extent there's a grade, every trucker knows they need to have their vehicle under control. These vehicles weigh 80,000 pounds when fully loaded. We don't know what the weights were here, but he was carrying lumber. He should have known that his stopping distance is much greater than a typical passenger vehicle or pickup truck. And he had a duty then to be in a gear that would allow him to use his engine to help reduce his speed. These vehicles take special attention. That's why that takes special licensing and training. These are professional drivers, and they have a heightened duty to make sure that they're taking care of the public and are acting safely at all times.
Unfortunately, in this situation, there are a lot of vehicles involved. Does that make it more difficult when it comes to trying to come up with some resolution and determine fault and that sort of thing?
In this particular case, it would appear from what we know that the driver and the owner of the vehicle were at fault. A full investigation will need to be completed. For the stopped traffic and slowed traffic ahead of them, it's hard to imagine that anyone was at fault that was involved in this, for the reason that there had been another accident up the road. So these folks had all been slowing and stopping because of that accident. This driver, we've seen on video, moving to the right and passing at a high velocity vehicles that were already slowing for that traffic. So the issues are, among others, was the driver distracted? What was it that was causing the driver to enter into this area at a high rate of speed? If there was a sudden brake failure, there's been a suggestion there was a pull-off for this exact thing for runaway trucks that he could have accessed. And so we have a situation where if it's an equipment failure, it should not have failed. If it's a driver failure, obviously there's a high degree of liability. Reconstruction of this accident will be necessary, however, because there will be questions as to what other vehicle movements there were on the roadway.
You've mentioned that there's video. We've seen video on YouTube that were shot by citizens or people that were, there's one where you see the truck zooming past the guy that was shooting the video. Are those videos, is that something that can be used in a trial? Is that something, can that be used as evidence? Are those people encouraged to turn that video over to police? What's the situation there?
Absolutely. I would encourage anyone who is a witness, who has any such recording, or even as an eyewitness could render a statement, that they write that statement, that they preserve that video, and that it be presented to the attorneys who are representing the folks who got injured in this, as well as the police.
Sorry to interrupt you. Speaking of the people that got injured, what would be your advice to people that were injured in the accident, the family of people who were injured or killed in the accident? What would be your advice to them at this point?
My advice to them is that they should get in touch with an attorney who has a great deal of experience in handling 18-wheeler accidents. At the at the Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys, we've established a board certification to be able to prove who is actually qualified to handle these types of cases. And we're doing that because these crashes are not like just automobile crashes or pickup truck crashes. There are special regulations, there's special equipment, the forces are much greater, and the responsibilities that are attendant are much greater. So it takes somebody that has experience. It's important that each family and the survivors get in touch with somebody who's qualified to actually help them and analyze this. There are also specialized insurance coverages that are involved with an 18-wheeler. And again, it takes specialized knowledge, and there's often quite a bit involved in making sure that all of the insurance is obtained.
It almost, from a layman's point of view, it seems like, they've already arrested the driver. We've seen video. It would almost seem like it's going to be pretty cut and dry. Would you say in your experience this may be a little more involved than that?
Yes. At this point, we do not know what reasons the driver was continuing up the road at a high rate of speed. One of the things that we don't know, for instance, is although we've seen the driver come in on the video to go past this traffic, did someone do something that caused him to be diverted from stopping his vehicle? Those are the kinds of defenses that the driver and his attorneys and the trucking company may try to assert. That's why it's very important that a full investigation be done as quickly as possible. Oftentimes the police do a fine investigation, but I found in my experience that we usually need to do more to bring in professionals who are experienced in handling 18-wheeler crashes and making sure that we have an entire story put together.
Okay. Tom, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate all the information.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope everybody out there will be careful today.
My guest has been Tom Metier of the Metier Law Firm in Colorado. He's also president-elect of the Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys. And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyers. Remember, you can always get more information and choose a lawyer that lawyers choose at askthelawyer.com.